Have you ever thought about what goes into nailing that audition? Today, I am going to pull back the curtains and share with you my secret sauce, my audition process. Hey guys, my name is Hans Christopher. I am an actor, coach, and creator of the Working Actor series. If you'd like a copy of my audition routine checklist, you can download it at the link below. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. With that, let's dive in. My audition routine and walking you through exactly what I do when I get an audition, and every step that kind of goes into that process up until the point that I put it up, and then even sit down and review what happened. So I have this created for both self tapes and for in-room auditions. Now, in-room auditions aren't happening as much anymore, but I still think it's important, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see it come back in some capacity when things get going again. So, with that said, let's just jump in. So the first thing that happens, the first thing that I do is on the night that I receive the audition, or the day that I receive the audition, my first step is I look up the show, I look up the director, show or movie, I look up the producer, the showrunner, writer, CD, and for anyone I can, I look them up and try and find them on Instagram and try and add them. I've created and curated my Instagram to kind of showcase me as an artist, showcase me as a professional. And I don't think, unless they have a private account, I have no problem following that person. I think it's a great way to kind of follow what they're doing, follow their career, and stay on top of building your connections with casting, building your connections with people in the industry. I would never reach out direct message to them. You just follow them, and it just gives me an opportunity to follow somebody new in the industry. If I get a call back, if I get called in for it, if I get close. Sometimes, many times when I've done this, they've followed me back. And so it's just a great way to kind of keep in touch and to maintain that connection and allow them to see you a little bit, especially if you have your materials and things set up online that could make them be like, oh, wow, I didn't know he did this, or, oh, that's great. So that's kind of the goal with that. So I have a routine that I immediately do that. The next step is I print the breakdown, and I print the sides, and I print 2 copies if I know I'm going to be doing a self-tape. I print 1 copy if I'm going to be going in room. So that's the next step. The next step that I do, and this is all on the night or day of receiving it, is I schedule a rehearsal, I schedule a coaching, and these are only if needed. Sometimes these aren't needed. If it's in room, a lot of times I'll schedule a rehearsal with a friend, another actor, and sometimes if it's a big role that, I have the time to do it, I'll schedule a coaching. I have a few different coaches that I work with. And if I have the time, the way I view coaching is I believe I can get myself to 90% if I do this properly. But a good coach who knows how you work and knows what you do can get you to that last 5%, 10% that you need to really showcase what you can do. And I used to have a little bit of a kind of a thing against that, and I don't know why, because I always end up coaching and I find some new things to try and do, and I'm like, oh, that was great. So if you have the money, look into doing it for big auditions, and this is the time to do it. Next step is I want to make sure on that first day that I set up my reader and I set up my rehearsal partner. I want to have that set so I don't even have to worry about it. I have a list, and I would suggest everybody do this. As you start reading for actors, as you start helping other actors and kind of building your network of actors, that's why I suggest doing the accountability group. I would create a list of actors who can read for you, 5, 6, 7 people deep, and read for them. And so you kind of set up this agreement where they can help you, they can read for you, they can rehearse for you. A lot of times I'll just do it over the phone too. I'll walk through with somebody over the phone or over a Zoom just to get it out, speak it out loud, especially when it's in person. It just helps me quite a bit. Then the next thing I do on the day is I research the period. If it's a period piece, I research the history. I'll go on YouTube and see, if I know the role, the breakdown has said I'm a drug addict or I'm something that's outside of me. I like to find something specific I can kind of attach to on YouTube real person or a real thing or a performance to kind of draw from and pull from. So that's the day of, the things that I do day of. Next step for me is the preparation. This is going to seem like a lot of stuff, but it goes pretty quickly once I get it in and get that routine set. But the preparation is I read the script if I get the script, and I absorb the material if I can. Absorbing comes from a process that I learned in one of my classes at Diana Castle. And I absorb the script if I have the time, or I absorb the material, the sides, if I have the time. Sometimes it's a day of audition and you just got to do what you got to do, and you'll figure out that process too. I'll probably come up with another thing that I talk about for doing how I jump into day of auditions. But that's much more play, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes those end up being my best because there's everything is out the window. You just got to go. But so what I do is I absorb that and I make sure, I got this from Helen Mirren. I don't know if you guys watched her masterclass, but I thought she had some great stuff. When I read the script, when I read the material the first time, I make sure I have a pen with me and I'll make a note in the side, because she's so right. When I read it that first time, there are things that I see, things that come to life, the way I see it, the way I think, that first impulse that I have, that I want to make sure I have it written down. I want to make sure I just have something there so that I remember what happened, because a lot of times those first impulses, those first thoughts about it are magic. So I just want to make sure I have that written down in kind of the sidebar, side tab. Then what I'll do is I'll pull out some important things, people, places, events that were listed in there. I just like to have them kind of underlined. That's usually what I'll do, is I'll just go through and underline them in the script, meaning those are things that I need to have built internally. I need to have lived through and created a little bit of backstory to. Then the next step is, if you guys were here last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I do the 3-step memorization technique, acronym, Rehearsal Pro, and that process usually takes me about 30 minutes to get off book if it's 2 to 3 pages. If it's a longer thing, then sometimes the process has to be more. If there's accents, it can be more difficult. The accents part would go in, I would look to a coach, or there's somebody that I use to help me with accents, who's great. He just puts it up and sends it over to me, so I have something to kind of go off of. And then the last thing I think I talked about was the research period, history, YouTube work, and that's it. Oh, sorry. And then we're already on the preparation, so I went back. 3-step memorization routine. So there's that, and then the next thing after that is tethering. I do this process called tethering with the character that I'm playing. It's kind of like, for me, it's that, if you imagine that process in Avatar where they connect the tails or whatever it is. I think I may have spoken to you guys a little bit, but I like to have one page. I have these little journals that I use. I have one page, on the top of it I'll write my name, on the other side I'll write the character's name, and then I'll do this process of, why did Hans choose, if the character's name is Arnie, why did Hans choose Arnie? And then also the same in reverse, why did Arnie choose Hans? And the goal of that is, if you've done the work, the things that we've talked about, finding your superpowers, building your foundation, and you started to unpeel that onion and know some of those chords, some of those notes that speak to you, you have a sense of yourself really well. You know those things that are important and that speak to what you are. And now the process is, after you've read the script, after you've read the breakdown, after you've gone through and absorbed that a little bit, now come up with some for the character, some that you think may tie in. So you just write those on the other side. I just have 2 pieces of paper like that, or the journal opened up. And what I'll do is I'll pick 3 things that tether, 3 things that our stories are similar, something that I can connect with, to really solidify my story is his story is my story. That's something that I've incorporated this last year, and I think has helped quite a bit in building that bridge of making this story mine. So that's what I do with the tethering. Then I'll usually pick a song or a few songs to set the world, to set the vibe. This is especially important for me, I found, with in-room auditions. I put my earbuds in and I make sure I listen to something when I'm in the room. when I'm in the waiting room or before I go in, just to put me in that mood and that vibe. I tend to go out for a lot of things that are very intense, and I got to jump into a world really quickly where some crazy shit has happened. And that for me, music is such a great way to tap into the essence and the mood right away. So I always pick a song or two to go into it. While I'm doing the tethering, now all this stuff happens pretty quickly because I'm so used to doing stuff like this. But while I'm doing the tethering, I'm also thinking in mind of turning those things that are important. Like let's just I'll use a specific example. The Animal Kingdom thing I did, I used this process of the wounded dog, and I think my motto that I came out with it is I'm such a piece of shit. And by doing that, I can even feel it now. Just by doing that, having that motto, that's what I want to take into the day. I want to let go of everything else I've worked on and just turn it into this little motto that I can use to thread through. And usually I'll bring two or three because I like to do two. I like to send two different tapes, completely different tapes whenever I can. That's actually a little bonus. That's one of my pro tips I got from a guy, Aldous Hodge. I was working on a movie I did, and he said, always send two tapes. He said, always send two tapes because as somebody who was a producer of the show and somebody who was casting the show and watching tapes, he said that tape goes through a review process where, yeah, maybe it's the director, maybe it has to go through the CD, maybe there's producers, maybe there's heads that have to sign off on this. So imagine it's around a table and each person at that table has to sign off on you. If you send one tape and say it's a certain particular type of way, and producers see things in a completely different way than directors see things, and maybe it's slower and the director loves how much stuff's behind the eyes, but the producer's saying this doesn't fit the world, they're not doing the things they're supposed to be doing. You want to be able to win that person who's not a fan of your first tape over with your second tape. And that was the way he described it. And I thought that was such a great way. And he said, basically, you want that other tape to be incredibly different, very different, to win those other people in the room, to win those other people at the table, to say, oh, okay, I didn't like that one as much, but I didn't know he could do that. If he could do that, then yeah, I'm good with him. That was the way he described it. And I thought it was a great way to think about it. So that was just a little side note there. That's the creating mottos. Then the next thing I do, and a lot of this will happen at the same time. So while I'm creating mottos, while I'm doing stuff, I'm sitting in a chair. And then what I'll do is I'll back the chair up and I'll imagine, okay, if I'm sitting in my audition, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to be sitting. Imagine my reader, because I go to a studio that's right around the corner from me, or it's a garage that we turned into a studio. And I imagine myself in that space. I just want to start working in creating the world before I go into that space, creating a few of the things that could be around me, right? I find in this process by creating the world where people will be, maybe something will be over there, what's above me, what's below me, what's behind me, just going through this process quickly starts to fill in the world, and it'll give me ideas of things to do, props to play with, things to kind of make it my own and make it alive and fit the story. So that's another process that I do. And then when I go into my audition room too, I end up walking it out, and what I'll do is I'll describe to the reader. And as I'm describing things in detail to the reader, it's just a process of me being able to see it and have it come to life. There's going to be a desk over here and a woman looking at me, and I see her. And so I just want to fill the space in around me when I get there. So that's how I do that. And then already did that. And then the last thing I do in my preparation is I make sure before the day I pick out an outfit for the character. A lot of times building the character, especially when I've done that YouTube research, I'll already start to have thoughts in mind of things I can do. But the character and what you're wearing is so important to the role. I would say it's far more goes into that snapshot of what they see when that tape first comes on in booking the role than we want to even admit. Um, and your goal is to make the casting director, make the producer, make everybody think that you kind of are that person. You want them to feel like they found the right person. You don't ever want to make them feel like you're an actor playing the person. And that may have happened 10, 20 years ago, but now it is, casting wants to know they found the person, not they found the actor. So your goal, that's, you're going to find that through your character and through your outfit and your period and maybe tricks of lighting that you can do to just make little things that make them be like, oh wow, this person really fits the world or this breakdown or what we wanted. So that's the preparation. And then this is before the audition or maybe on the day stuff. I'm going to have another thing where it's specific on the day techniques to really get you into your play, your child artist. But right before the audition, if it's an in-room especially, I make sure with every, I didn't bring it in, but with every audition I do, self-tape or in person, I have a little audition kit. It's a prep audition kit. It has a whole bunch of little things in there. It has a tear stick. It has concealer in case I have something on my face. It has, depending on the role I want for, it has stuff to make my beard gray, so stuff to make my beard not gray. Just little things. I'm not doing tons of makeup or anything. It's just if I have a big pimple or something that I want to cover up. And then it also has things. It has I have a handkerchief because I like to have something in my hands. Even though you don't see it, it just calms me down a little bit, so I'm not doing weird things with my hands. Yeah, and I have other things in there. I'll probably do a lesson where I pull out everything I have in the toolkit. Cigarettes, little props that I typically like to go to and use are in there. I even have, in the preparation kit, I even have L-theanine and GABA. I told you guys I had suffered from terrible stage fright. I still do, but I think I just understand how to work through it better now. But L-theanine is an amino acid that helps calm the nerves. It's been great for me. First day of set or big audition or something, it's something I use. GABA the same way. It's just a neurotransmitter that you can get at pretty much any store. So if I need that, I'll do that. Then I'll do on my way to my self-tape or on the way to the audition, I have a vocal warm-up that I've created. I'll probably do a lesson about what I do for that. Then I have breathing exercises if I'm going in room to kind of get in my breath, get in my voice. And then I have, like I said, I use my headphones and I listen to whatever song that I've been prepping with. I make sure that through the whole preparation process, I'm kind of listening to that song low in the background, so it puts me in that world. I usually have written down somewhere on my sides that I'll bring with me the mottos that I've used. I'll usually do it on the back or maybe above, but those mottos that I use when tethering, I'll kind of bring those in. And then if I'm going into a live audition, I want to make sure when I enter that room that I say hi. I'm nice, professional, but I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to tell the story and serve the story. I want to be professional. And so the first thing I do is I want to make sure I connect with the reader. First, after I say hi, I want to make sure I connect with the reader. And something that I do, this is from inner game of tennis kind of thing, is I want to make sure that I know the color of her eyes or his eyes, whoever the reader is. I just want to be aware of that to kind of check in and connect with the reader. And then what I do is be professional. And then when the audition's over, no matter what happens, they're gonna go through the process of saying thank you. Make sure you say you're welcome. Don't say thank you back. It's something that we tend to do because we're nervous or we don't know. You just put something up, even if you fall on your face. You did something, and you're gonna walk out of the room and say you're welcome, and then walk out. And let go of that. Let go of whatever happened. You're gonna have a lot of falling on your face at first. That's just the process that happens, especially in room auditions. You just gotta be doing it to get used to it. And then afterwards, I usually do a recall. If it's in room audition, I'll sit in my car and see how I feel. Am I embarrassed? Did I fall on my face? What showed up? What didn't? And I'll just kind of speak it out loud. And then I'll make sure I write it down. If there's anything about the office that threw me or that I need to know, I'll make a note of that. I have an office folder or different offices if it's in person. And then one of the most important things, you guys know, one of my golden rules is the lessons learned. I think it was the first golden rule. Make sure that if I did fall on my face, if I did fuck up, I am going to create a lesson for that to ensure that it does not happen again. One of the most important things you can do. And then I do my review process maybe a day to 2 days later if it's a self-tape. And you can find my review process in one of the YouTube videos I did last week. And that's this process that I use to kind of start improving at home and for free. It's something that I can do by watching those self-tapes and going through that review process and doing it. So that's basically my audition. That's my preparation. What I do for every audition, or what I strive to do for every audition, I should say. Sometimes I'll get a day of or next morning and I just can't do the process the way I want to do it. Also, depending on what it is, I really allow myself to go in whatever direction my gut's saying. If it's a comedy and I'm feeling myself doing something else, I'll just lean into that sometimes. I don't have to do this. This process is just there for me. And because I've done it so many times, it's kind of, I'm doing a lot of these steps automatically. And it's served me well. I mean, I think my work has, because I've gotten this process kind of locked in and into this place where I just go through it. I feel very confident in my work and what I can bring to the table, and more importantly, it's helped me book roles. So that said, I'll open up to questions if you guys have anything. I think there's some new faces in here today, so excited to hear what you think and if you have anything for me. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you have any thoughts or comments about the audition routine, something you would add or take away, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll see you soon.